How to make the most of CodePen. Thanks so much for coming. I heard a ton of you signed up for this, which is very exciting for me. I was like, oh, apparently a lot of people like to do these webinar things, and I am happy to do it. So there's a question already. Am I filthy rich? Absolutely not. Oh, you know what, Angela? I can see you in blue in the chat room. So if you need to talk to me, just say something, and I'll see you because you're a moderator or whatever in blue. So that should work out okay. So I have a plan for you. This is going to be, you know, if anybody has a question while this is going on, feel free to drop it in the chat room, and I'll see and watch you. But I'm going to intro what CodePen is, get into some cool advanced features, maybe intermediate features we'll call them or whatever. So here's the deal. This is what CodePen is. If you go to codepen.io, you'll see a big button in the top right corner that says New Pen, and that's really the heart and soul of CodePen. It allows you to write HTML, CSS, and JavaScript right in the browser. You know, you don't need any extra software than that, and see what you're doing. I think a lot of you know that, right? So I can do something like, I'm going to make a button. Hey, SitePoint. And close that button, and it shows me the button down here. It's rendering the HTML, so that's awesome, right? I could style that button. I could go button has a background of red or something. Wow, nice. I did it there. You know what else I could have done in the HTML editor? I can type button tab or something like that, and it just expands into buttons. So that's kind of a quick way to write HTML quick. Let's say I want like 50 paragraphs of lorem ipsum text. I could be like p lorem, and I want 50 of them. I hit tab, and it's going to give me 50 paragraphs of text. It's pretty incredible, huh? So that's a cool little trick. You know, one of the things that the advantages of using CodePen is, though, for those of you that like preprocessors, all that stuff is built in too. So it's like, I don't write CSS anymore. I write SCSS. So I can open up the settings, or I could click the little gear right next to the CSS thing, turn on SCSS, and now I can use that, which is pretty cool. Perhaps I could make a variable for my color red. Make that red, and then use that variable. I'm going to save the pen. CodePen likes to bother me when I haven't saved, because I could lose work. That would be scary. And notice it's still red. So like, how did that compile? That's not valid CSS, of course. If I want to see the CSS that it's compiled into, I could say view compiled CSS here, and it's going to output the compiled CSS for me to see. So let's say I wanted to get a little bit more complicated with my Sass. Let's say I wanted to write a Mixin. I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm going to grab this Mixin that I have over here. It's not particularly cool Mixin. In fact, it's a pretty bad Mixin, I might even say. But it does the job. All right, I pasted that Mixin in, and I pasted it over that line where I was declaring what the variable red was. $red equals red. That's gone now. You'll notice this little red icon in the bottom right over here. That's telling me, oh my God, there's an error in your SCSS. So without being obnoxious about it, it's telling me that there's an error. Sometimes, you know, if you're busy with local development and you save and there's an SCSS error, you might get an error in the console or an error in CodeKit or some other kind of software like that. This is just a chill way of doing it. Be like, you have an error, but I'm not going to bother you. I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to freak out. It's just going to put this little error here and highlight the line that it thinks that it's on. It looks like it was off by 1 in this case, but I can click that. I don't know if you've ever seen this in CodePen. Make sure that you click it to let you know what's going on there. Oh my God, that right there, there's an error in line that tells me what the problem is. I can make red again, and that error is going to go away after it compiles. That's cool. So here's my really dumb SCSS Mixin. It takes 3 variables, background color and size. It sets the background color and the color to those variables. Then it has a little logic in it. Oh, is it a large button? Make it large. Is it a medium button? Make it medium, whatever. So now I can call that Mixin. I can go include, and what did I call it? A button, and pass it 3 things. I'll make the background, I'll pass in that red, I'll make the text white, and I'll put nope here, something that it doesn't even kind of know about. Now the Mixin has been called. It made the background red, it made the text white. Yeah, I could even get rid of that. And nope didn't meet any of the logic, so the else condition ran, and it made the font size 1 and the padding 1 or whatever. If I said large here, that part of the mixin would have ran and it would have been like that. So, okay, well, you know, I think a lot of you probably know how to write CSS and have that kind of operate. Let me grab this chunk of CSS here and just cut it away from here. It's going to fail now, right? Because this mixin doesn't exist. This variable doesn't exist. Cool. Here's an interesting thing. Let's say I wanted to, I like my mixin. Instead of it being a dumb, awful mixin, the one that I already made, let's say I made a really cool one and I want to reuse it. That's called a dependency, you know, and that happens all the time in web development. So let me go codepen.io/pen. And I'm going to paste that in here, just the mixin and just the variable declaration, and hit save. Now there's nothing to see here because it's just a chunk of CSS. I should point out here, maybe this is a little thing that you didn't know about CodePen. I can put a URL extension on the URL up here and just put .css. Do you know that? And it's going to show me the CSS of that pen. And this happens to be an SCSS pen. So if I turned on SCSS here, which I should do, the URL extension .scss is going to give me that raw, and then the CSS extension is going to give me, yeah, the same thing. In this case, it should have processed down to nothing, but that's okay. I've made this pen now with this reusable chunk of code in there. I can just take this URL and use it as an external resource on this other pen. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to go into my settings. And under my CSS settings here, it has this opportunity to add external CSS. This is the kind of place where you could add something like Bootstrap. Maybe a lot of you have heard of that. I can just select Bootstrap from that, hit save, and it's going to apply Bootstrap to this pen. Now, it hasn't refreshed because there's an error so far. Let me comment that out. Then the error won't happen. And then you'll see Bootstrap kind of apply to this pen. You can kind of see the Bootstrap styles kind of taking effect there. Not only can I add things like Bootstrap or animate CSS or something like that, I can paste this other pen in here. And it's going to grab the SCSS from that other pen and allow this mixin to work, because it's going to it just knows what to do. It's just smart like that. Now I have this chunk of SCSS that I can include on any other pen to do that. So that's kind of a cool possibility, right? One of the things that you can do on CodePen is export your work. So I can click export down here. One of the things is now I'm authenticated through GitHub. That's one of the ways that you can sign in to CodePen. If I save as a gist here, it's going to just take a second. It will export my code over to GitHub. It's just kind of a nice way to just, I don't know, make sure you have a copy of it, which is kind of neat. Here's another little trick here. If I were to change this a little bit, just add some extra code in here, and I exported it again, it's going to export. It's going to open up a new tab of it, but you now see that there's revisions too, and it's going to show kind of a diff between the two or whatever. That's kind of good to know. It doesn't make a new gist. It keeps updating the same gist. That's kind of a nice trick. The other thing that you can do is just export it entirely as a zip. And I know I'm just sharing this, just this window, so you can't see, but there's literally a .zip file sitting on my desktop. And in that folder is all the stuff, the HTML. There isn't any HTML, there isn't any JavaScript, but an output, for example, the .scss file that I've created right here. And another thing I can do on CodePen, this happens to be a pro feature, and I won't dwell on too many pro features, just I don't want to be annoying about it or anything, but I could upload it here. So I'm going to say SitePoint demo style SCS, and I'm just going to drag it on here. It's going to upload that file right here. And I can grab that URL and put it in here in the SCSS file instead of where we had it before. So this is now just, oops, so that's just the file name, but I want to grab the assets. I'm going to grab this entire URL, paste it. What I'm trying to demonstrate is that, oh, it's being weird. Stop being weird. SitePoint. Copy. If I paste you up here, are you being good? Yeah, that's the whole URL. Just ping right here. That's the whole URL. The point is that you can upload assets pretty easily on CodePen and link to them that way. And just because it's SCSS, it's still going to work. It's still going to know what to do. It's going to be like, I see, that's SCSS, and this pen uses SCSS. So I'm going to smash those together before I process them so that the dependencies work. And that SCSS, it doesn't have to be hosted on CodePen. You could put it in Dropbox and have a public link or link to it raw from GitHub. I think that still works, or anything. So it's just a thing to know about processing on CodePen, which is kind of useful. And I should also point out that, you know what, if I make this window a little bit bigger, the way that assets are stored, that's just kind of a convenient way to upload an asset is to open it here, and that's where you can drag and drop and search and find the stuff that you've already uploaded. But there's this thing, the asset manager, that has all those files in it as well. So I could go under CSS and look for my SitePoint file and find it in here, and it's going to open up in this kind of full page editor. So I don't, this is just a hosted asset, but I can still change it. I still have the power to edit that kind of thing. So just because you upload an asset doesn't mean that you can no longer edit it. You can still edit it. And in fact, if this was the large button, it should have got even larger. Boom! A trick to refresh the page there is Command-Shift-5 or Control-Shift-5 on PC, and it will automatically rerun, which is kind of nice. The way that auto refreshing works is that, so if I made this blue instead, it's going to refresh just because I've stopped typing, which is kind of nice. But let's say you're working with like keyframes in CSS and you're sick of it restarting all the time, or it's a pretty heavy pen, or there's a ton of JavaScript or something, and you're sick of it. Every time you stop typing, it's refreshing down here and it's getting annoying. Under the behavior tab up here, you can say, I don't want that to happen anymore. Hit save and close, and it's going to give you a run button. Now, if I change this to pink or whatever, it won't refresh. It's just going to sit there until I hit the run button, and then it will refresh. So that's a thing to know about. Asset manager, these URL extensions work in the same kind of way. If I did console.log, hello SitePoint, just point out that you have access to that in the same way. So if I put .js at the end of this, it's going to give me this raw JavaScript kind of thing. Now you can take advantage of that in interesting ways, because you can, for example, put JSON in here, which is kind of nice. And then you can access that with .js, and then you have like this chunk of JSON that you can like Ajax for and use as data on other pens. It's kind of a neat way to do it. So let's take a look at that in a way. I have a pen I found that I thought was kind of an interesting example of this. I was digging around for earlier. This is a responsive table with JSON data. So it's just kind of this nice looking table. It has responsive features. And how would we test those responsive features on CodePen? Well, we could resize the entire browser window, of course. That works. But sometimes it's easier to switch the layout mode and put the editors on the left or right. That way you can kind of get this squish happening without needing to resize the entire browser window. So that's kind of nice. This is a pretty nice little table, actually. It morphs from columns to rows. It's kind of one of the cool tactics for responsive tables. But what is extra interesting here is the way that it gets the data and builds this table is through JavaScript. There's just like some JSON data that it builds itself from, which I'm sure, some of you developers out there are more than familiar with that. They're getting their data from this other pen. So this is the pen, and this is just some HTML, and says like, this is just the data. And they just dump their data in the JavaScript section over here. So we can, again, you can just look at that data or access that data raw through here, just put JS at the end of the thing. So if I grab that URL and then go to pen, and you know what, let's get access to that data. We're going to write in JavaScript. I'm just going to add jQuery to this. And as a matter of fact, there's thousands of libraries that you can add just by typing on CodePen. Like, I want to use P5 or something. Ooh, apparently that wasn't a good demo, but jQuery is certainly one of them. You type jQuery in there, and it's like, chances are, if you need it, it's in there. I'm trying to think of good examples. Snap SVG, or they just call it Snap, I guess. There it is. Pretty cool. In this case, I just want to use jQuery. It's the latest and greatest copy of it. I'm going to get JSON at that URL, and then just see what we get. So Zeta. I guess a lot of us are used to just like popping over the console and just seeing if that XHR request happened. So if I Command-Shift-5 and refresh it, we should see that JSON request go out, and here's the results of that. So that's kind of neat, right? We could console.log that data, which is kind of cool too. Then just in the console, we'll be able to see the data and interact with it. That's kind of nice. But I should let you know that CodePen has a console as well. It's just a button down here. I can click to open it, and that same data is available here. And it's nice for a couple of reasons. There's nothing wrong with the browser console. In fact, it's actually, to be honest, far better than our own built-in console. But for example, if there was like a div with an ID of like thing in here, and I want to access div ID thing, we're so used to on a website being like, oh, like can I like document dot query selector for thing? You just type it, and you're so used to that. It's like, oh, I couldn't find anything. Oh, that's right, because the context is wrong. This is like CodePen itself. Thing exists in this iframe down here. So I'd have to go, what's the thing? Oh, apparently I have a million extensions. This is the proper thing. Now it's going to be able to find that thing. You don't have to do that in our console. It's just, it'll find it right away. And I have a feeling like this is going to complain at me too. Oh, no, it found it right away. It's just when you try to do something like document.body, it's going to be like, that was weird. Sometimes when you try to output something that's just enormously big, or like maybe the document itself, it's going to be like, oh, that's too big, because it literally is too big. It'll output like a zillion lines of code and kind of not work there. I guess that's what I wanted to show you. I mean, we could do anything with this. We could say that in thing, we're going to append the data one dot name. Carla, there we go. So you can imagine like just getting fancy with JavaScript. They were able to build a whole table off of the dynamic data that they were storing in another pen. So let's see if there's some questions so far. Sean Reisner asks, is there a way to rerun my pen without a page refresh? Yeah, that's the Command-Shift-5 thing. So Command-Shift-5, and it's going to rerun again. You can see how this is full of stuff in here. It keeps running over and over without clearing itself. We could type console.clear here, and then every time we run our pen, it's going to clear that out. And then we're not logging anything. Console.log stuff. You see that syntax error I just had? Even in JavaScript, it's not a preprocessor language. Even here, we're trying to warn you about what's going on. We try to execute your JavaScript, see if there's a problem, and warn you, and don't run the pen until that's a problem. I think that's a pretty good learning thing. If there's anybody out there that like teach JavaScript, I think that's kind of useful. So it's going to output stuff, and then if I refresh, it's not going to have two stuffs there because I've cleared the console. But if I got rid of that, every time I refresh it, stuff, it just stays there until you clear it. So it's kind of nice to put console.clear at the top. So CSS people, it's not just pre-processing that we can do. Let's just give ourselves maybe a new pen. It's not just Sass, of course, either. It's less and stylus and post CSS. Post CSS doesn't do anything by itself, but it's like, do you want to use this cool SVG mixin that we have, the lost grid? It gives you the syntax of how these things work, examples of it. In HTML, you can write it in Markdown, you can write it in Slim and Jade, soon to be Pug. On the JavaScript side, you can pre-process in Babel and JSX. JSX is just built into the the Babel processing that we do. So there's a lot of pre-processing options with zero config, which is kind of nice. You just select the setting and off you go. Does it detect HTML errors? That's a pretty good idea. It can analyze your HTML. So let's say if I put div SitePoint rocks, that's a problem, right? That's like malformed HTML. We could say, I want you to analyze that HTML. Oh, it found no error. It technically isn't an error to leave that alone, is it? Let's do a really bad HTML error if we can. Or one of them is like div class equals thing or whatever. Oh, that's pretty bad. It should catch that, I would hope. And we'll close it with like a P tag or something. Oh, if this doesn't find any errors, we certainly have something broken here. There's 2 errors it found. That little string of awkwardness, you know, there's a missing equal sign here. It's not a valid attribute. Yeah, it's not an attribute because that would make it an attribute, of course. And it found another one, which is pretty interesting, which it says you've used a class that's not in any other style sheet. So like you have thing, but thing can't possibly do anything because you haven't written it in your CSS. And that doesn't factor in JavaScript. So it may be your query selecting for .thing or whatever. So that might be annoying. So it's just a warning, you know, like you could feel free to ignore it. It's not that big of a deal. It won't bug you if you prefix the class with JavaScript though. So now that I've fixed those errors, I can clear them and I can run this again and it should tell me that there's no error. So that's kind of good. So Adam's asking, what's a way to add meta things to the HTML? Now you'll notice that what we're not asking you for here is like, now this is just a shortcut for in Emmet to make a full HTML document. It's actually going to give you a warning if you try to do this complete actual document, because it doesn't need all of that. What we actually assume a document that's a lot like this in CodePen, we actually assume that what you're doing is just typing in the body. So if I type like hello again here and look in the inspector, you're going to see that it's not just hello sitting in an iframe. We put some stuff, we have to load a document to make this all work. So we're kind of giving you an HTML5 document here. And Adam's asking, how do you put stuff in the head then? If all that you can write here is in the body, how do you change stuff in the head? There's a section for that in HTML. Literally, we call it stuff for head. And you can put whatever you want in the head section there. The most common thing you need to put in there is a meta tag for responsive design stuff. And we made that a one-click button, so it'll chuck that in there if you need it. So that's how you do that. Those of you that like to prototype in Bootstrap and Foundation and stuff, I think I showed you that those are just one click away here. You want to do Foundation, boom. You're writing in Foundation now, so that's good. And sometimes there's some JavaScript for that too. It works the same way in JavaScript. I could come over here and type Foundation. Does Foundation have JavaScript? I don't even know. Apparently it does, and it's on version 6.2.3, which is nice. My favorite one that I leave on all the time is, let's see, I'm not pre-processing at all, is AutoPrefixer, because AutoPrefixer adds prefixes, which is super useful. So if I go body, what's like the best thing that it does is like flexbox stuff. So if I say display flex here and then analyze the CSS, not analyze the CSS, but oh, is it? Come on, buddy. Is AutoPrefixer on? Save. Should allow me to view the compiled CSS. Yeah, there it is. It added all these things for me, which in Flexbox land is a huge pain in the butt. There is a little secret on CodePen that, like, for example, if a lot of you are like AutoPrefixer heroes and you customize your AutoPrefixer to the exact browser specifications you need, AutoPrefix is just a thing that you can turn on. It has defaults, but you can also customize it saying, I want to support this browser and the last 2% of traffic to this and this and this. It's very configurable. I have a pen demo here that shows that. What you do is you turn AutoPrefixer off, actually, under the vendor prefixing setting. And then you turn on post CSS because AutoPrefixer works through post CSS anyway. And then you do this. You say use AutoPrefixer, which is kind of a unique thing that we've implemented at CodePen. And then pass it this kind of, it looks a bit like JSON in CSS. It's weird, but it has semicolons. It's just a strange syntax. But this is your opportunity to customize what AutoPrefixer does. And you'll see I have display flex here. If I say view compiled CSS, it's giving me a different set of prefixes based on those settings than our default settings do. So that's cool. One of the beautiful things is search on CodePen. There's millions of pens on CodePen. And just searching for stuff is so fun. Like, let's look for rainbow. Just see what's up with the rainbow search on CodePen. That's just a wonderful search, isn't it? We'll search for JSX though, and then we'll ask some questions. Can you add other plugins or extensions in CodePen? So yes and no in some degree. I mean, if it can be done in the client, you can do it. So sometimes people ask us, like, can you do JavaScript modules? And it's like, you can't do them in the sense of like Browserify or Webpack or whatever. Like maybe someday we'll support that. We don't right now. But you can, for example, use like Require.js, because Require.js is the client-side version of JavaScript modules. So yes, like if it can be done on the client, you can do it in CodePen. But if you're like, oh, there's this post CSS plugin that just came out. Can I use it on CodePen? Not really, because we actually have to like install it and whitelist it and do some work. So please hit us up in support if there's something that you think we should offer that we don't. But it's not like a green field. A lot of people use npm modules, and you just like npm install whatever. You can't do that on CodePen either. I'm afraid. Let's see. So. Tell us about upcoming features. I wish I could in a way. I do. It is kind of weird timing for this, so maybe we'll do one again in a month or two. That would be wonderful to me. But there is lots of new stuff, and in fact, we have most of our team just cranking away on a new feature. The hint being that let's see, what is a good hint for it? It's kind of like let's say you're taking a web design 101 class, and the first thing they taught you is how to make a website for your aunt's sewing business or something like that. And you wanted an index page, and you wanted a contact page, and you wanted a work to show off all the photos of her work. How would you do that on CodePen? It might be a little hard, huh? But that's kind of coming. Busher asks if you can write PHP in CodePen, and no, you can't. It's all client-side stuff entirely right now. No PHP or Ruby or Python or any back-end language. Unfortunately, there are some things that allow you to do that. I can't think of the name of any good ones right now. Can I use Kendo components that I have a license to? I don't know what Kendo is. Send me a link to Kendo. Can CodePen URLs be used externally? You can. That's kind of the deal with, this is a pen that I made for myself. Thanking myself for having a good day. That's very nice of myself. If you were, you could hit this URL to grab this JavaScript from anywhere. You could, there's some HTML here. If you needed to use this, if you needed to use it kind of like an API, give me the contents of yourself and use that externally in an app. Yeah, you can absolutely do that. So Chris is asking about how big the CodePen team is. There's 9 of us now. So that's about it. You can check out the team page at About. We'll show all our smiling faces on there, including Twitter links, which I think what he is asking for. Mark is asking about the Pro plan, and I promised I wouldn't go on about that, but there is some pretty cool, compelling, interesting advantages of it that can do some things that I think people are kind of interested in. Here's one of them called. I'm gonna show you my face for a minute as I stop sharing, and then. Hi, everybody, and then share again so I can share my screen. In fair warning, I upgraded to one of these like 34-inch monitors that's super enormous. You might get a little inception. Let me move that screen away. So now you're seeing my super giantly wide monitor, right? let's say I'm going to type some stuff in here. I'm going to go body, background, red. The old classic, let's turn the page red kind of thing. Actually, you know what? Let's make it fog dog, my favorite hex color in the world. I'm going to save this pen. One of the things that we offer as Pro is this thing called Live View. So I'm going to open up Change View, the same place where I was like changing, you know, the layout and stuff, and right click on Live View, which opens up a new tab, and you can see it's just all orange, right? It's just a big old block of orange. I can open that as a new tab. I can move it. Now you're seeing both of my screens, right? And I'm going to change it to pink or whatever. And you'll see not only in the editors is a change, but it changes over here in Live View as well. So that's kind of neat. Let me close this down a little bit. I could open, let me just like open Firefox or something. Hopefully that'll fire right up. Where are you, Firefox? There you go. I'm going to put that in there too. And then I'm going to do that thing where I gave myself lorem ipsum times 50 or whatever. Give me a whole bunch of text in there. You see it's just all popping together, which is pretty nice. If I squish this down, maybe I'll go like this. You notice even, this is kind of a neat feature, even as I scroll, it scrolls the other ones too. It syncs that kind of stuff. If I click on something, it'll sync a click and that kind of thing. If I make this go back to fog dog, that's going to go orange on everything too. This is a big one that I like. You know, if you download Xcode, I'm just on a Mac here, so it's just like a really easy mobile simulator to use. I can do my kind of mobile testing right through this, which I think is so cool. In fact, I could open Safari too. I'm going to open Safari. I'm going to grab the live view URL from this. I'm going to hit paste so I can go up in here, remove that, click so I can paste, and go to that. And that will be orange too. I'm going to go back to red. I'm going to scroll down. Does it work on mobile? Oh my God, it even does. I thought that'd be broken for sure. That's awesome. So now I have kind of a mobile tester. In fact, oh, I was all. What about this? Shouldn't that affect it on mobile? That's weird. I think it's automatically injects that tag actually, because we had so many problems with people not putting it there. This actually should have been all zoomed out and weird looking. But okay, so mobile testing. I can't see the comments now. Let's see. Just to clarify, can we basically hot link resources from CodePen to other apps? Are there limits on the API number of hits and stuff? No, there isn't. I would say feel free, I guess, to hot link stuff. I'm not overly worried about that kind of thing. Just be warned that there's no like versioning or anything. You can screw yourself up that way. If the thing that you're hot linking to changes, it's just going to change. There's no kind of guarantees for that kind of thing. So no limits about the things that you can hit. How can you pull up the pens you just worked on in CodePen is a question from L. Weller. People have said, oh, gosh, I wish that was easier. And we've tried to make it easier over the years. One of the things is right on the home page where you're kind of exploring and checking out cool stuff. There's this My Recent Pens thing. So you see, here's our big pink button and a few of the recent pens. Right on the CodePen, right on the home page, we try to put that there. Also in the user dropdown, there's kind of a link right to pens. You can just jump right to pens, and that will be your recent public pens. So it's those same 4, but really you can see 6 now, and you can paginate. And if you want to see a lot of them, because you don't care what they look like, there's list view, so you can see kind of a whole bunch of them in a row and sort them by date and things like that. So that's kind of nice. Look at my pretty profile. Isn't that cool? You know, you can customize your profile. I can just go like into my settings. And remember some other things like I really like SCSS. So you know what? I'm just going to make that my default. So every time I make a new pen, that's the default. I really like AutoPrefixer, so I'm going to put that there. I don't really care about line numbers, so I have that off. I really like spaces with 2 tabs, but I know a lot of people like 4-space tabs. So I can change all those settings. I can change, do I like light themes instead of dark? You know, we have an example of those. So you can really customize the editor to kind of feel good for you. Now when I hit new pen, it's a whole new world in there. It's all light theme because, you know, we've just heard from enough people that really prefer that light theme kind of stuff. But where was I going? I was telling you how to customize your profile a little bit. If I go under customize, I have the opportunity to just, remember how we added external resources to a pen? You can also just link up a pen CSS to apply to your own profile. So you can get all fancy in there if you want to. So this is the CSS for that. Oh, and I have a little trick in here, all stored. Here, I'm adding a custom font from Google Fonts. And I just said, I just want to change my name to that fancy custom font and add a little shadow behind it. So that's what I did. That's like all I did. And I think I maybe put that background behind it is this setting, which is you can use a pen as the background for your header. So I'm using both things there. But the trick is that I put an iframe of my own profile as this pen. So as I change stuff in here, if I were to go, like, what's the best font in the world? Is it Impact? I don't know. And then hit run. My name should be Impact. Oh, I have to save it first because that's what makes the CSS the CSS. Oh, bam, Impact. I actually kind of like that, but I'm going to change it back anyway. Save, run, go. Let's see. Is there a cheat sheet for CodePen specific shortcuts? There is, and right here in your editor, there actually is kind of a lot of key commands. They're not customizable, but there are a lot of them. I think it's Command-Shift-9 to bring it up. Ooh, maybe not. I forget what it is, but there's a button that says keyboard on it, and you can click it with your mouse, and it shows you all of the key commands that are available. One of them that's kind of nice is that's brand new on CodePen is autocomplete. So it's kind of like let's see, body, how do you spell margin? Hit Control Space, and it will bring up all those CSS properties that exist for that. So that's kind of nice. And it works in all of the things. Like, how do you spell marquee again? I don't know if this is in there. Is it? Oh, it brought up all of them. That's a little obnoxious. And maybe it doesn't work as great for HTML. But there's, like, if I had function, my dog is here. And then I type my dog. That should just Command Space, just knew it. Just knew it. Like if I type doc, there's probably multiple things. Oh no, there's only one thing that happens to be like in the DOM right now that's called document. So Control Space just auto-filled it. That's kind of a nice one. That Command-Shift-5 should be in there for rerunning the preview, clearing errors, doing emmet-like stuff like incrementing numbers. So let's say I had div, margin 20 pixels, control up, control down will change those numbers. Kind of a clever little thing that we offer in there. It's just, you got to get muscle memories for these things, and then you can get it. So that's that. Let's do some more. Busher, what's the easiest way to browse and search existing pens by other users? Our search is pretty darn good, and you can kind of get customized with it. So if I just do a search here, it doesn't have all the offers, although I can search just for posts because there's blogging on CodePen as well we didn't get into, but there's stuff like, what's another one? Game of Life or something fun like that. That's going to search all of CodePen for Game of Life, and it's going to sort them kind of by popularity. Like, does this have a lot of views and a lot of hearts? So it's trying to show you ones that are likely to be good first. But of course, you can paginate back in time as long as you want. Oh, that was an intensive search to do. But now that I'm in here, you can notice that it's like, do I want to search by that, or do I want to search by only new stuff? So this will, show me the latest person who tried to do a Game of Life pen on CodePen. It looks like there was one probably just from a day or two ago, and it looks like they were trying to do it with checkboxes. That's pretty cool. And you can search just, don't show forks or do show forks, only show things that are mine or from people I follow. You can get pretty fine-grained with search. And if you're searching yourself, it will even show you private things, which is another pro feature. How much better is CodePen than JSfiddle or whatever? I don't know. They predate us and are perfectly good products, and there's no way I'm going to say anything bad about them. In fact, I think they're excellent products. JSPin actually can feel a little faster sometimes because they do some pretty cool client stuff that I kind of like. We focus on some of the backend server. I feel like CodePen just works the way it's supposed to a lot of times, and I really enjoy that kind of thing. And there's just a lot more community on CodePen. I mean, we can look at CodePen stats. and it'll just show you how many pens and how many people are on here. 750,000 users on CodePen, and they all have public profiles, and they can comment and heart and follow each other and follow back and blog things and talk to each other and stuff. There's just a community on CodePen. We're a community in this room. There's real life CodePen meetups that people meet each other. I think the CodePen is a code editor in the browser. That's what I've been showing you all about, but it's a community as well. Let's see. Reading questions. Is there a way to use CodePen as a team of developers? I should probably dig up some blog posts of people that have written about what it's like to use CodePen as a team. I have a page that I made about it just recently that, oops, I misspelled that. We have team accounts. And so here's a page that explains teams on CodePen. There are lots of bigger teams using it. I'd say the number one reason to do it is that it's shared billing for one thing, so that you just one person pays and you can give accounts to as many people as you want. But everybody that's on the same team can edit the same pens and edit the same posts and has access to the same bucket of assets and that kind of thing. So it's used a lot of time for prototyping. Like, I'm going to prototype this set of components and send it to my client. Because they're pro teams, you can make collections of pens, which is kind of cool. You can make 6 pens, make them all private, then make a collection, make the collection private, and then send that to your client. And it will show them this totally, nobody else in the world can see it but your client. And it'll be like, oh, I see. This is the button style we want to use. This is the typography we're using. That's kind of one of the more common use cases for CodePen and Teams. Can you tell if a pen has a dependency before you delete it? No, and what's worse, look at this cool logo with the 2 CodePens into each other. I'm getting distracted. That was a nice touch, self. What's worse is that when you delete a pen, you're not sure if something else depends on it. So that's actually a pretty cool feature idea. It would probably be a pretty complicated database query, but we could get it done that says, whoa, before you delete this, that would be nice to know that something else is depending on it. Yeah, let's see, 5:47 here. We got some more questions. I'm curious about the technology stack. CodePen it uses just about every technology there is. I think there's a whole lot of Node going on. A lot of the new stuff we're working on is React and Redux and Immutable. But just the editor, like as it is in production today, is largely just most of the app is a Rails app, and we just use jQuery and wrote our own kind of libraries and stuff for it. But it's hosted on Amazon Web Services architecture. We actually are pretty open and talk a lot about that stuff on our, oops, this is WordPress. On our podcast, CodePen Radio, which we've been, we're up to 108 episodes on it. But if you just look through here for things like servers and infrastructure and stuff, we have a whole podcast where we talk all about, with our server people, about the infrastructure of CodePen. Plans for future CodePen merch? I don't know. I hope so. We get ideas for that once in a while. Feel free to click the store link in the footer and check out the merch that we do have. We sell pens and notebooks and T-shirts, and I think we have some water bottles and stuff. The easiest way to get it is to go to a meetup, and then they're all free. Angela, are the pens, are they open source, or do they vary by license types? No, private pens, you can apply any license you want to. They're not automatically licensed, but this is actually an important concept for people using CodePen. If you post a public pen on CodePen, and this is in our documentation here, it is MIT licensed. So what's kind of cool about that is that everything, I did that search for Game of Life, I did that search for Rainbow, anything that you find on CodePen that's public, you can use. It just has to also have the MIT license on it. You don't even have to credit it. It has to be MIT also. So there's a legal thing in our docs here that says what license is the code I post to CodePen. Here's that page that explains that kind of thing. And it's also, we've tried to be clear about it on the pen as well too. So if you're looking at a particular pen, all the information about that pen is in its details view, which is like shows you the author and the name clearly and who loves it and the comments on the pen and that type of stuff. There's a tag for the license here right on that. So it kind of explains what the licensing is for pens. So nice. URL to the meetups. Your best bet for finding our meetups is under community here in the footer. It's a section of our blog area. So it looks like Singapore is having one soon. Anybody from Singapore in the chat room? I heard like literally like 1,000 people signed up for this thing. So I wouldn't doubt it. I'm sure you're all dotting the globe. St. Louis, Dayton, Ohio. And interestingly enough, anybody can host one of these things. These aren't like people that we seek out in these cities. These are people that seek us out who live there that want to throw one of these things. And we have a sponsor for them, so we can get you some money to throw a meetup, and we'll send you swag, and we'll help you through the whole process. So anyone wants to throw a meetup, that's possible. And we have a page about hosting meetups as well that explains that. So you want to host a CodePen meetup. You know, we were talking about some other features of CodePen. You can still see my screen, right? I still have this live view open and all these things. That's funny. Showing you the syncing and stuff. Some of the other things that you get, you know, I'm presenting right now, but sometimes some of us, including you, I'm sure, present on a projector at a conference, or you're a teacher or something. We have a mode just for that. So if you hit presentation mode, it's not going to look all that different, but look at the top bar as I click this. It's kind of going to whisk itself away and go away. So it just gives me a little bit of extra room. But beyond that, what it allows me to do is change the what color the code is and the interface, just so I can find one that works best for this projector. I can bump up the font size a bunch. So it's like, if somebody's like yells from the back, hey, bump the font size up, you know, you don't have to rely on the browser bumping to do that. It's built right into the interface. They're like, what's the URL for that? You can click this and it'll show them a short URL right to that pen so they can look at it. If the demo, if, you know, let's see, H1 high, if this is like too big or small, you can actually make this smaller, make the preview that size. So it's kind of it's just for presenting is the kind of the point of it. And there's so many other things too. If anybody teaches out there, we've heard of people that interview through CodePen. Because, for example, I could set this up as a challenge. You know, I could put a syntax in here and save it or something. Then I could call you up on the phone and say, hey, you know, you're interviewing for our job. Let's go. You ready? I'm going to open this in collab mode. Then I'm going to send that person the URL to collab mode. I guess I could it actually might be a little dangerous to share it in the chat room right now, because there would be so many people in here that it would bug out probably, because it's kind of limited to 6 anyway. But what it does is it's a bit like Google Docs in that multiple cursors are flying around at the same time. So we can work together. Like if any of y'all into pair programming or figuring out problems with each other in real time, that's what collab mode is all about. Open up collab mode, you both get a cursor, and you rock and roll. We could probably do this though. I'm going to post this in chat and see if it actually works. Write your message. And you should pop in here. So it says 0 students watching. Hopefully that part is working. If anybody's at their computer and can bring this up, you should be able to watch me type slowly. And it should, as I type those keys, they should be happening on your computer too, which means that like you could do this in a classroom and you know, your students could be watching on your screen, or you could do this, you know, do a lunch show and tell, that kind of thing. So I'll probably close out that room, as I don't really have a good demo ready for that or anything. Let's see if there's some more questions though. What's been the overall feedback for CodePen thus far from users? Is there a favorite feature? The favorite pro feature is certainly private pens, just because people like to work on stuff and not have it be public right away. So that's kind of a thing. People use it for a lot of different things. I mean, some people just use it for throwaway stuff. Like, I got a bug, I want to play with the bug and have a demo for it. A lot of people like specifically use it for blogging. I like the embeds. So for example, I'm writing a blog post and I want to show off a demo in that blog post. I might let's look at some of my popular pens here. I can't see them. I prefer the Oh, this is fine. And I want to put this in a blog post to show off this demo. I can open up the embed thing. It's a pretty popular feature. And this chunk in the middle that you're seeing is what would go on an external site. So, like on CSS Tricks or whatever, where I blog, I can be writing a post, make a pen, and then bring this chunk and just put it right in the blog post. So people can see the code. They can see the output from that code. Right in there. So that's a pretty favorite feature. And a fairly new thing is that you can make the code editable as well. So if I check that checkbox on before I copy and paste the code that goes over there, when this is live editing code, just like the CodePen editor itself, it just happens right on CSS Tricks, which is cool. I'm not sure what people's absolute favorite feature is. I think what people really like is being picked for the homepage, because you tend to get likes and people talking about your pen and stuff. So I've said this before on our podcast and stuff, and I would encourage everybody who's listening here, is like the people make cool stuff on CodePen. There's some pretty amazing stuff on here, but the bar to make the homepage isn't like that crazy high. If you sit down one day and like design a really cool thing, even if it's just like design a blog post or do whatever like your best thing is, there's a good chance, if you tweet it or whatever, that it's going to get picked. It's not like tweeting's a requirement. It's just we monitor Twitter for cool pens, so that's a way. You could even email it to us and we'll be like, we'll check it out, and if it's cool, we'll put it on the homepage. You can make it. You can do it. So it sounds like we're about to wrap up. I have so many things I could talk about. One of the things for testing, I'll just spew a few random things for you. Let's say I was looking at this pen and I was like, there's clear there, I'm in Chrome on Mac right now. It tends to work pretty well. But what if I want to test this in IE9 or whatever? How would I do that? Certainly, you can just open this URL in IE9 and look at it, but sometimes you don't want all of CodePen's stuff kind of like interfering, and in fact, we don't support super far back with the interface of CodePen. So if you wanted to test this in IE6 or something crazy like that, you couldn't really with this URL because this interface won't load that well. But we have this thing called debug. So if I open up that URL, that's this pen, but with no CodePen UI at all, no iframe, just the raw code of what has been built there. So that's pretty nice for testing. But specifically, if I use a URL like that, and there's a link right here in the view switcher, there's this app called cross-browser testing. And cross-browser testing is a paid app. It's not free, but it is free if you're testing something on CodePen. So if you want to cross-browser test something, put a CodePen URL in here, and you'll be able to use cross-browser testing for free forever with CodePen. So that's kind of a cool little tip. Reset for the preview, Tim asks, you pick which reset you want to use. So we call it the CSS base. You can use nothing. You can use like the normal Eric Meyer reset or normalize. Or you could put neither and link up another pen, or you could link up an external resource for your own reset. Can CodePen be included in a video recording for education legally? If there's any way you can just ask me and I can say yes, go for it. People use it on YouTube all the time to be like, here's a demo. I'm using YouTube to explain how to do it. I absolutely encourage that and believe that it is legal. What's the best way to follow what I'm doing? Yeah, certainly. I blog at csstricks.com. I blog there, but lots of other people blog there too these days. We have a wonderful post just today from Anna Tudor about CSS 3D stuff. And notice it's full of examples embedded on CodePen in here. So Anna's a great user of CodePen, and here's an example of that. She's created this example in SCSS. I can view the compiled code and that type of thing. That's an easy place to keep up with me. I use my name everywhere. So my name is Chris Coyier, and I'm that on GitHub. I'm that on Twitter. Any social media app that can be my name, that's me. chriscoyier@gmail.com. Feel free, or chris@codepen.io as well. Feel free to email me anytime about anything. I love to hear from people. I don't really have any final words. I should just say that if you have any questions about CodePen, I know that just kind of blasted random stuff at you. That was kind of my plan all along. There's so much to know about CodePen. Please stay tuned for future features of CodePen. And if you just want to talk to me directly, Chris@codepen.io. I'd be happy to hear from you. Thanks so much for hearing that. Last one before I'm out. Zach asked about revisions. I covered that gist thing. That's as close as we get for now, but absolutely it is something we plan to build. Cheers, everybody.